Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on my 2006 F150. We're a little bit tight for space in the garage here, as you can see. So we're going to head to a shop where we have access to a hoist. Right now we're going to get my truck fired up, go pick up my brother, and we'll catch you guys at the shop. Hey guys, we're here at the shop. We already got the truck set up on the hoist. Today we're going to be doing some suspension work on my 2006 F150. We'll do a little bit of a how-to, and this will apply for our 04 to 08 F150s. So we're going to be doing upper control arms and a wheel bearing on this side and lower ball joints as well. So I'm going to rip these wheels off and we'll get to it. Okay, first things first, we're gonna take this caliper off. I just recently serviced the brakes on this thing, so I'm just gonna undo the two caliper mount bolts at the back. They're both 18 mil, and hang the caliper up. But I'll unplug my vacuum line so that doesn't get wrecked. And I'm gonna need to unplug the wheel bearing as well. So I might as well do that now. Plug's broken. That's handy. Bungee. Okay, next thing we want to undo this tie rod nut. So we'll take the cotter pin out. A little rusty.
Hasn't been out in a minute,
Won't hurt to spray it. These nuts here are usually a 21 mil. And just try and give it a smack. Mine has a little bit of tension on it because my truck has a 2-inch leveling kit in it. So usually you can hit the side here and the tie rod will pop out. That's not gonna work. So I got the nut level with the top of the stud here. I'm just gonna give it a whack. That way, if you hit it without the nut on there, it's gonna mushroom the end of the stud, and we wanna reuse this, so. Just like that. Okay, so we got the tie rod out of the spindle there. Next thing we wanna do is take the cotter pin out for the upper control arm bolt. And this nut here is also a 21. This is tight to turn because my lower ball joint is seized. So same as the tie rod, you can leave the nut on and just undid itself. Just like that. But usually you can just have the nut on, leave the nut on and tap the side of the spindle with the hammer and then it'll release the tension. Okay, now we're going to take the cap off for the axle nut. Undo this nut, and it's a 13 mil socket. It's a 15 mil. It's a 15 mil on this one.
15, final answer.
It's a 15. So this truck has vacuum actuated hubs. That's what that vacuum line I took off on. We're gonna do the wheel bearing on this. I'm taking the spindle off, but I'll show you guys how to do the wheel bearing with the spindle on the truck. So undo these 4 bolts and they're all 18 mil. Okay, we got the wheel bearing bolts out. We usually don't need to drop everything in order to do the wheel bearings. Just makes it easier, and plus I'm doing the upper control arm anyways. So we got all the bolts out, and this thing's already starting to fall out, so that makes it easy. You just give it a couple taps, and she's out. So now we're gonna pull the spindle off and do everything else. We'll put the wheel bearing on back after. So next we want to undo this cotter pin and this nut, and then we can drop the spindle. Just like that. Okay, now we're gonna undo the top strut nuts and this lower strut bolt. Take that out because the upper control arm bolts have to slide inward to remove that. So we're gonna do that now. that we got the upper control arm out, it just makes easier room to get at the ball joint here. So I already took the grease fitting out, undo the snap ring, and we'll grab the hammer and just smash this ball joint out. Okay, we just cleaned everything up off camera, but we got the ball joint press set up here, so we're gonna press the new ball joint in. Just like that. Install the new snap ring. Just like that. And new grease fitting. Okay, now we're going to install a new upper control arm. All right, now we're gonna reinstall the strut. Look for it. There it is. Okay, before we put the spindle back on, it would be easiest to do the wheel bearing here on the ground, so we're just gonna do it that way. You don't really want all this crap inside your vacuum hub. It's not really good for it, so. Okay, put the new wheel bearing. Now when you're installing these wheel bearings, they're splined to this vacuum hub. So you want to make sure when you put it in that the splines are lined up. Otherwise you could cause damage when you go to start driving. So we'll tighten these up and put it back on the truck. Okay, now we can put this knuckle back on. May need a hand from cameraman.
Camera guy.
It's easiest to put the axles through first. Camera drag. Start the nut.
Yep. Good.
And then we'll tighten the nut up first.
Camera guy's back. One bigger. Yeah.
Yep.
That's lined up.
Oh,
with color.
perfect.
Minty.
Okay, we'll put the new cotter pin in. That's that. Now we're going to put the upper control arm on the spindle. So it's a little bit hard on my truck because it's got a leveling kit. It adds a little bit more tension, so you can just, there you go. She's in. Now we're gonna tighten up the top ball joint nut. It's a 21 mil as well. Okay, now we just gotta tighten this nut up. We'll put our rotor back on and our caliper back on.
Should be minty.
Yep. I also have 1/4-inch wheel spacers on my truck. I pretty much do nothing, so. And, okay, just a trick so you can hold the rotor on. You just take your lug nut, put it on backwards. And then you can put your caliper back on. Put some thread lock on. I always double check these caliper bolts, just make sure they're tight. You know, the impact gun makes them pretty tight. I like to check. Those are good. We can put our axle nut cap back on and just put our vacuum line back on, tie up our wheel speed sensor, and then we're gonna put our tie rod back in and be done. Done. All right, guys, last thing we gotta do is grease all the ball joints and tie rod ends, and then we'll put the wheels on, torque it, and that's gonna be it. So if you guys like this video, if you want to see more how-to videos, let us know, drop a comment, and make sure you guys like and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one.